guess, and I mean, God, these graphics suck!
You see, it's funny, because who would review chess? Hello there, friends and enemies. Back on December 26, 2023, Kevin Dees, creator of Six Forms, the card game, reached out to me and asked if I wanted to take a look at his card game. A week later, I said yes, and now, a month and a half after that, I am finally making a video on it. Six Forms is a card game that advertises itself as a chess-style game. It is also a card game so new that as of the time of this recording and video upload, the game isn't even out yet. Their Kickstarter, I believe, goes up on March 19th, 2024, so if you'd like to pledge to that, if you're looking for a new card game and this video makes it seem interesting to you, I would definitely recommend going and checking it out. If you're watching this video at a time past that time or when Six Forms is already released, too bad, buddy. Because Six Forms is so new, I feel like there's not a whole bunch that I can really say about the game, but if you'd like to know about some of the history of the game, you can go and check out the Six Forms website where Kevin has an article talking about his creation of this game. In Six Forms, you have a deck of between 40 and 80 cards comprised of 3 different types of cards. You have avatar cards, action cards, and artifact cards. All of the cards have a cost associated with them in the lower left-hand corner of the card. On avatar cards, their art is flanked by arrows that show the directions that they can move on the board, and in the lower right-hand corner you have their stat bars. Their first number, which is their attack stat, their second number is their health stat, and their last number is their weakness stat. We'll talk about all of these during the gameplay section of this video. Also, if you see a little star symbol on one of these stats, normally the attack stat, that means that that stat does not exist. Or I guess, in the way that the rulebook puts it, that card cannot attack and cannot have an attack. Anyway, that's really all I can say, so let's go ahead and take a look at the gameplay of Six Forms. Here we have the board for Six Forms. We start with our main battlefield where all our cards go. We have our quarry where we share 32 energy cards between both players. We have our deck zone, our grave zone, and then off to the side, our void zone where any cards that are removed from play are set. We begin the game with a life total of 20 and 1 spark, which I will represent with this dice here. Then we just draw 5 cards from the top of our deck and we're ready to begin the game. Just remember, if you don't like the cards in your hand, you can shuffle your hand back into your deck and draw another 5 cards, but you can only do that once. We start the game off with our draw step, where we draw 1 card from the top of our deck. If you're going first in the game, you do not do this on your first turn. Next, we enter our regroup step, and there's a few things we can do here. We can gain 1 energy from the quarry to our side of the field if we'd like. If that energy cube is drained during this step, we can go ahead and charge it once again, and we can ready any of our cards on the field that are exhausted, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Next, we move on to the act step, and there's a few more things we can do here. The first thing we can do is play cards from our hand by paying energy for them. Now we can use either our energy cube or our sparks in order to pay for energy for cards. If we use our energy cube, we just drain the cube, and then we play the card down on the field like so. Later on, we get that energy cube back. But what about sparks? If we utilize our sparks, the spark goes away, and then we play the card. That spark does not come back after the use of the energy from it. At this point in time, sparks can only be brought in by effects of cards. You can only use 1 spark per turn, either on your turn or your opponent's turn, but you can only use 1. We can also place any battlefield cards, meaning avatars or artifacts, face down on the field. We can only place 1 battlefield card face down on the field per turn, and its cost does not get paid until it is flipped up. You also cannot pay to flip up your battlefield card on the same turn that it was placed down. During this step, we can also choose to change the orientation of one of our cards. If it is vertical, we can change it to horizontal, or vice versa. During this step, we can also play to attack, meaning that if an opponent has a card in one of our zones, we can spawn one of our cards into that same spawn zone. We then deal damage, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Note that you can only do this if you have 2 or less cards than your opponent. on the field. You can pay 6 of your energy in order to draw a card, and you can activate any effects you might have on the field. After the act step, we move on to the move step, where we can move any of our face-up vertical cards on the field. A card can move up to 2 spaces in any direction that any of the arrows on the card are pointing. For example, I could move my Crimson Flame Dragon over here, or I could move it down here, I could move it here, I could move it up here, and so on. If we move into an opponent's space and they have any other battlefield cards there, we would enter battle. When we enter battle, there are a few different ways that it can work. If we move to attack, or if we're playing to attack, we're just going to enter battle normally. If each card is in the ready position, they're going to deal their attack stat to each other's health stat. The monster with the higher attack will destroy the monster with the lower health, and any excess damage goes through to the opponent as life damage. If the opposing creature is exhausted, however, that creature will just get destroyed and no excess damage will be done. If our card is behind our opponent's card and we decide to attack from behind, then something interesting happens. We reduce the defending monster's attack by its weakness number, and we increase our monster's attack by that same weakness number. This additional damage that would be dealt is called critical damage. It should be a reminder that all damage only lasts until that battle is over. Once that battle is done, the damage heals. In order to attack your opponent directly, you must have your card in that opponent's back row. Then your card's full attack damage will be dealt to your opponent to their life. Note that if you are the player going first in the game, you do not do your move step on the first turn. After our act phase, we move into our second act phase, where we can do anything that we could do in the first act phase. And finally, we end our turn. If we have more than 7 cards in our hand, we discard cards until we get down to 7, and then we pass to our opponent. At the beginning of our next turn, we draw a card, and then we enter our regroup step, where we can ready any exhausted cards on our field. A player wins when their opponent's life reaches 0, or when their opponent can no longer draw a card from their deck. And there you have it. That is 6 forms. Honestly, the gameplay is pretty fun, in my opinion, or it seems like it would be. If you've looked at the plenty of chaotic videos I have on this channel, you know that I enjoy card games that work in weird ways, especially if they work similarly to board games. I feel like it's an interesting concept every time that it's pulled off. Then again, I can't really say that because this is only the second game that I've played that's really like this. But this game seems really fun. I can really see myself enjoying it. One thing I will say is that the rulebook kind of has some wording and some, I'll say, organization issues that I think could be addressed, but it is just the first draft of a rulebook, and I've seen plenty of rulebook first drafts that are not that great. The rulebook for D-Spirits, the first draft of that, I think was made kind of badly as well. But that's all a simple fix. It does have a ton of words to it and a ton of examples to give you just to make sure you don't get that confused, which I think gives them an extra point. They're trying to make sure that you understand how the game works. As of the filming of this video, I can't really speak on the accessibility or price points of 6 forms because the game is not out yet, and it does not have an online simulator, but I can say that I can see this being the type of game where you don't really have an online simulator, or if you do, it's done probably kind of in a similar vein to like Hearthstone, where you just get cards with pictures and stats, and then the effect text is brought up a little bit later on or something like that. But I could definitely see them pushing for this game to be more of a physical game that you're supposed to play with other people in real life. That being said, I don't think I can fairly score this game with some of that information being left out, but I do definitely, as I said before, feel like this game would be fun. It definitely seems fun from my perspective. I like the ideas of how the cards work. I need to look a little bit more into the effects. I usually don't talk too much about effects in these videos because I'm trying to just get all the basics out there, but it definitely seems like a pretty fun game. I would like to play with other people, and luckily enough, I have 2 decks right here, so I am fully prepared for that possibility. That being said, I won't mince words. I think this game could be a pretty good one, pretty big one for, especially if you're the type of person that enjoys math in games. If you like Magic the Gathering for stuff like math and for like weird deck building things, I think you would probably like 6 forms, but of course use this video to judge it how you like. For now, I'm going to go ahead and give 6 forms a somewhere between a 6.5 and a 7 out of 10. I think we'll land at like a 6.8. I think 6 forms looks fun, and maybe you will too. But that's all I have to talk about 6 forms. Now I want to make some really quick, short announcements before we end the video. I've talked about this before in community posts, but I have started streaming again, and I am starting to dedicate Friday nights to Yu-Gi-Oh! Streams. So if that's something that you are interested in, if you like my Master Duel videos and you would like to see more Yu-Gi-Oh! Content from me, specifically me playing, go ahead and check me out on twitch.tv/ToxyTCG. There should be more Master Duel Champions and Weird Deck Techs coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. Now, that's it. Everything's been said. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Kevin, if you're watching, I hope that you enjoyed the way that I made this video. I know that in these card game reviews, I tend to miss some details, so if there's anything that you think that I missed that you'd like to clarify on, go ahead and comment down below. I will pin it at the top. I hope you found something to enjoy about this video. Thank you so much for watching once again, and until next time, as always, drink your water.